This week's guest, we have Ryan Pierpont, professional swing trader and 2 back-to-back top 3 finishes in the U.S. Investing Championship. Ryan, hey, how's it going? And are you going to make it a threefer? With
Allie, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm honored you had me on, and I'm looking forward to this. Not a 3 for this year. I was telling Richard when I was talking with him that we've got a lot of things going on in my life and little kids to look after. So one less thing to worry about, but maybe next year.
All right. Well, it's going to be a fun time to chat with you today. We're going to go over some current trades and some fun stuff as well. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll kick things off right away with your 1-sentence reaction to how you have positioned yourself with how the market unfolded this week.
I would say one word would be selective. It's not a market where there's things moving in mass. I think you have to be fishing in the right ponds. Obviously energy and coal and the commodity trade has been very strong. So that's a good place to look if you're going long. Tech's been pretty weak. So that's been pretty much an avoid for most names. And I've just kind of been laying back most of this year and just kind of surveying some things here and there and not getting too aggressive, but things like ag and recently some bios have been coming around and healthcare names, but it's not your traditional, tech market like we saw in 2020. So there's things still making new highs. You just have to be looking at the right stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a very split market and it feels like we're kind of at a critical juncture with the NASDAQ right at the 50-day line. But we'll be flexible and see what next week brings, because you're right. There still are some setups out there, and we'll talk about what you've been trading this week. Also, Yeti Shark says, yeah, Ryan, looking sharp. So
Thanks,
just wanted to get you that message there. Okay, so now lightning mode with some fun questions here. What is your favorite sport?
I grew up playing baseball actually, but it's not my favorite sport. My favorite sport is golf, and it's perfect time for that. Even though I've only played 1 round in the last 3 years, because little kids will change that. But I love playing golf.
I'm out there with you.
I know they're getting to the age where they're old enough too, so I might start doing that. But yeah, the Masters is going on right now, so it's my favorite time of year, and I'm a big Tiger homer, so it's the persistence on that guy is incredible. I'm pulling for him, and every time you think he's out, he comes back and it does really well. So I'm pretty excited to sit back and see how the weekend unfolds. But I love golf.
Same here. Yeah. So we'll get this wrapped up so you can go watch. But I'd say for me, in terms of watching on TV, I love watching college football and basketball, but then to be watching sports in person, I love hockey and baseball. So
playoff hockey is hard to beat.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is electric. Yes.
Exactly. Okay. Next question. What's your favorite holiday?
Oh, my favorite holiday. I would have to say Christmas. I love the holiday season, the decorations. It was always so magical for me growing up, and I really love the holiday season. It's when I usually gain my 10 pounds of eating tons of food. And
all of us, right? Yeah. I mean, it's hard to beat that in the family traditions and everything. It's such a special time. So I had an inclination maybe that could have been in the running for a favorite holiday from you. So I went with something a little bit off the beaten path, and that is Labor Day, only because I was born around Labor Day. So there's always a 3-day weekend right around my birthday. So
that's perfect.
So that's always fun. Okay. So what's one item you would take with you on a desert island?
Oh man, if it wasn't a family member, I'd bring my wife and kids. But if it's something else, probably my guitar. I played guitar for 20 years. I love to rock out, and I love music. And
awesome.
So I'd bring my guitar with me.
Oh, that's a lot of fun. I chose something a little more practical, and that's a satellite phone to get me off of the deserted island, as fun as it may be.
Smart, yeah. Guitar, right. I'm sitting there forever. So
yeah, there you go. Well, who knows? Who knows? You could maybe figure out some sort of other way to utilize it. All right. And now circling back to the investing world, who would you say is your biggest investing influences? Not William O'Neill. He can't count. Someone else.
I would say, Dan Zanger. His story really caught my attention. He wasn't somebody who had a big background in the, institutional world or Wall Street. He was just a pool contractor building pools in Beverly Hills, and just kind of an everyman's kind of person. And he came in and put in the work and went to, studied William O'Neill and made a killing. And so I said, if this guy can do it, why can't I? So I think Dan is number one for me.
I love that. Love that. All right. Well, now let's talk about a trade that, two trades actually that you made this week. So one, let's talk about that didn't quite work out. And that was Twitter. Of course, the big move earlier in the week with Elon Musk taking the big stake. Now he's on the board. So a really big fundamental shakeup that in and can slim seems like Twitter really has that going on now.
Yeah, correct. So this was kind of one where I was betting on a strong salmon in the stream because the group is just terrible, right? I mean, ideally you want the market at your back, and the market's been not ideal, and the group that it's in is horrible, but the volume I couldn't ignore. It was just insane. And if you go to the weekly chart, it's just there's the most volume by a country mile in its history. And but it met some sellers. So yesterday I was looking at it. If you go to the hourly, if you can go to an hourly chart real quick, maybe.
Yeah.
So I was kind of watching the undercut yesterday, right under that 47 level there. And it was a pretty nice little drip down, and it spent maybe a second or two under there, and it kind of popped right back up. So when it reclaimed, I decided to take a stab at it just in case, I wanted to work back up. It was a very tight stop area. So I figured it was worth a shot for at least a starter position, even though the group wasn't great. And so it started to wedge back up, but you can tell the angle is a little bear flaggy, and so it didn't really get far. And at the open today, it was kind of trying to buck the early weakness in the market, and it went up to test that recent swing high, and it just failed from there. And so ideally with these undercuts, you really want to see it undercut and then react right away. And so the fact that it was just kind of getting comfortable near support, it came back down at my cost, and so I just ditched it. But nothing's technically wrong with it just yet. The volume's huge, but it might just need, a few weeks to kind of go sideways and set up a better entry point. And I think it has earnings towards the end of April as well. So maybe it can flatten out a bit and see what earnings have on tap, and see if we can get a move back up that right side.
Yeah. And I think one of the keys there with what you're talking about is for something like salmon swimming upstream. So I kind of maybe a little bit more going for that momentum. You talked about the warts here with it, but it's how you treated it with that tight stop to account for that risk that is important.
Exactly. And in this kind of market, if you're buying strength, you're just asking for trouble. You really have to either be shorting at, breakout spots or buying near support, near the danger areas. So it's really been more range bound trading, day trading. It's not so much a swing market unless you're in the commodity space. So that spot's been really hot. Coal, energy, oil, gas. That's really where the money's been made this year.
So speaking of, let's take a look at ticker RES. This is RPC in the field services group, along with Halliburton. That's maybe a more familiar ticker to the audience out there. But this stock was up over 7% today. Some nice volume behind it. So what attracted you to this name when we saw a lot of names in this sector moving today?
Yeah, so the thing I liked about this is obviously a lot of those have a strong prior uptrend. I mean, this you could argue is, I'm not a high tight flag expert, but it doubled in price, and it looks like a flag, kind of smells like a flag. It's kind of a little, you got the little wedge up into the prior highs, and so you can kind of tell that first attempt towards the start of April, it didn't really quite make it past that 1179 breakout spot, and so sellers kind of stepped into the market. And so that's what I usually like to call like a first mouse attempt. Like if there's a mouse going for the cheese, maybe he gets snapped by the trap. And so the first mouse doesn't work, he's dead. And then the next mouse, the next mouse comes, and, the hard work's already out of the way. So he just walks up, takes the cheese. And so you'll see that a lot with some of these breakout attempts is if it fails the first time, maybe a few days pass, a few weeks. And then the second time through, people forget about it and it can work. So you can kind of tell too that there's a lot of sellers and wick towards, the last week or so around that 1120-ish area. And so finally today it really started busting through, and then the rest of the group was doing well. Things like Oxy. It was a pretty good broad-based move for the group. So I figured it was worth a shot. We're pointing higher lows, and the group really, it had a huge run, and it ran into some really big resistance if you're looking at oil or the XLE in a monthly chart. But even then it still hasn't really pulled back that much, and it just seems like it's consolidating and maybe wants to go make another run at some point. So I think until further notice, I mean, this is really the group to be if you're looking long.
So true. Yeah. And interesting, you mentioned Oxy. That's the one that I went with today to add a little bit more exposure there. But anyway, I know it's just super fast. This is the Cliffs Notes version, but it was so fun getting to hang out with you and to talk about a couple of different trades that you made this week.
No, I appreciate you having me again. I'm happy to be here, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And thanks everyone for watching. We will see you back here next week. We're going to have Joe Fahmy on for some stock tales. So we'll see you then.